Before Tuesday's 30-meter telescope proceeding before the Board of Land and Natural Resources in Hilo, we asked the petitioners in the recent contested case hearing what they thought was their strongest argument and the biggest oversight by the hearing officer who decided against them. They all pointed to the 8 criteria, the Hawaii Administrative Rules, Section 13.5, that outlines the standards that must be met before the board can allow construction in a conservation district, such as Mauna Kea.
The 8 criteria. How about the view plane? How about destruction of cultural sites and saying no, it won't? That's 8 acres. 8 acres will be cemented. That 8 criteria, couldn't believe it actually, but it's okay because we're still here. We're still here and we're going to be here all the way. All the way.
The criteria is supposed to serve as the guiding principles that the land board should use to evaluate whether the proposal is consistent with the purpose of the conservation district, so that the planned land use will not cause substantial adverse impact of existing natural resources within the surrounding area, or that the existing aspects of the land, like natural beauty of open space characteristics, will be preserved or improved upon.
The 8 criteria are most important. The other side is arguing that if the 8 criteria were followed to a T, that there would be no telescopes on the mountain. I think that is the proper story to tell. We shouldn't have wall-to-wall telescopes. It should be a rare thing, and we have too many of them up there.
Speaking before the land board on Tuesday, Marty Townsend, the program director and staff attorney representing KAHEA, the Hawaiian Environmental Alliance, explains the issue over the TMT's Conservation District Use Permit approval and its conflict with the Conservation District criteria.
We are here today because the university has failed to fulfill its obligations to protect the Conservation District of Mauna Kea for many decades. The 8 criteria of the Conservation District rules direct the board to put the natural resources of the Conservation District at the center of its decision making. When we focus on the resources and when we make decisions in their best interest, then the intent of the Conservation District rules will be satisfied and our natural resources will actually thrive. As it is, the university and past boards have put the interest of the developers at the center of their decision making, not the resources. And it shows. The summit is 38 feet shorter than it was before telescopes found it. Invasive species are advancing up the mountain. And it is by focusing on developer interests that the university now attempts to justify expanding the industrial footprint of telescopes on Mauna Kea. Their argument continues to focus on the seeing conditions of the mountain rather than the natural resources that are identified for protection in the Conservation District rules. The fact that Mauna Kea has good seeing conditions for astronomy, for modern astronomy, does not mandate another telescope be built there. I mean, beaches are an ideal place to put hotels from a developer's perspective, but that does not make it a good idea. The university seeks to disavow itself from its history of mismanagement on Mauna Kea, the many mercury spills, the harassment of Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners. But the fact is, this is the existing environmental aspects of the land that criterion number 5 requires to be improved upon. The existing conditions of the resources on Mauna Kea are the direct result of the industrialization caused by telescopes on the mountain. And the telescopes on the mountain are the direct result of the university's advocacy and facilitation of development of the Mauna Kea Conservation District. The university is the primary advocate for every single telescope on Mauna Kea. It cannot now stand before the board and say they will not be responsible for the harm caused by their past actions. The university has an obligation to improve upon the existing resources of Mauna Kea because it has facilitated the current damage that is suffered by the resources, and because the rules mandate applicants improve upon the natural environment in which they are building in. Now, the university have you believe that that's an absurd interpretation. They can never build in a conservation district. That's not true. In this situation, to comply with criterion number 5 would mean fully restoring 2 current telescope sites before considering the proposal for a new one. As it is, the university makes empty promises to decommission telescopes in the future. Not only does the decommissioning plan not guarantee that a site will be fully restored to its natural condition, it's not part of this permit application. There's no way for you to actually enforce that and make sure it happens. The university is promising to you now, please give us this permit to build, and we promise someday in the distant future we will consider decommissioning. You have to ask yourself, what is inside the permit application? What did they actually apply for? And they applied to build. They did not apply to decommission, to restore anything on the mountain. Instead of improving upon the natural environment and ensuring that the project would not have additional substantial adverse impact on the mountain, the university relies heavily on its comprehensive management plan. It's a great title, Comprehensive Management Plan, but we know what they say about covers. Looking deeper into the CMP reveals that it actually is more accurately described as an assessment plan, a plan for conducting future studies. For example, the Comprehensive Management Plan has 103 action items. Of those, 36 were deemed directly applicable to the TMT. Of those 36, 14 are planning and monitoring, along the lines of study methods of invasive species spread, as opposed to actually stopping the spread of invasive species. Educate people about the historic, cultural, and natural resources of Mauna Kea, as opposed to actually protecting them. Encourage observatories to investigate options to reduce the use of hazardous materials in telescope operations, as opposed to actually stopping the use of hazardous materials on Mauna Kea. The only real actions that were identified in the TMT management plan were things like prevent light pollution, which serves the TMT's interests, and follow the law, which is interesting because they can't even do that. These are nice first steps. I don't want to put down the fact that we're going to educate people about the resources of Mauna Kea, or that we're going to try and figure out and think about how we cannot use hazardous material. But these are first steps. This falls far short from offsetting the harm currently suffered on Mauna Kea. And it definitely does not justify building another telescope, expanding the industrial footprint on Mauna Kea. Even after the university consulted with Native Hawaiian practitioners over many years, including many of the petitioners before you today, the university did not adopt any of their substantial recommendations. The Comprehensive Management Plan sets no limits on the number of telescopes that could be built on Mauna Kea. What's worse is the university, instead of focusing on restoring the natural environment, is focused in this hearing on disqualifying some of the petitioners as Native Hawaiian culture practitioners. The university actually contends that the practitioners before you today did not prove that they were Native Hawaiian. How can a university contend that Uncle Ku or Auntie Pua, Kumu Paul Neves, or any of the other Native Hawaiian petitioners are not worthy of the board's attention? These are the very practitioners cited by the DLNR in their staff recommendation and cited by the university in their own reference materials. Please do not be distracted by slippery lawyering. These petitioners are Native Hawaiian. They do engage in traditional and customary practices and should be granted the protections guaranteed to them by the state constitution. I realize that all of this slippery lawyering and the long time that it's taken to get to this point has really muddied the case in some ways, made it complicated. So I'm going to take a moment to try and simplify it. Kahea and the university's attorneys actually agree on quite a bit. We agree that the natural resources in Mauna Kea have suffered as a result of telescope construction. We agree that the university has been and continues to be the primary advocate for telescope construction on Mauna Kea. We agree that the TMT would contribute to some degree to the harm to existing resources on Mauna Kea. The difference is the university contends that it should be rewarded for this and granted a permit to build a new telescope and expand that harm. While we think enough is enough already. The general lease for the university's managed lands will come to an end soon. The TMT would be a significant, new, and permanent eyesore on the northern plateau of Mauna Kea. It is foolish to build such a massive industrial structure in an imperiled conservation area when the whole undertaking could come to an end before the TMT becomes obsolete. This is substantial adverse impact to anyone who enjoys the view from Mauna Kea to Haleakala. Enough is enough already. Please deny the permit application for the TMT. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Board members, any questions for Marty?